Welcome to Soil and Soul, a Catholic Passage podcast. Before beginning today's episode, we give God the first fruits of time and attention by listening to His Word and reflecting upon it with one of our spiritual fathers. May you be blessed with the Lord in your minds, on your lips, and in your hearts to bear the fruit that eternally
Hello,
endures.
I'm Father Roeder, reading from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, 22 through 30, on Wednesday, October 29th. Jesus passed through towns and villages, teaching as he went and making his way to Jerusalem. Someone asked him, "Lord, will only a few people be saved?" He answered them, "Strive to enter through the narrow gate, for many, I tell you, will attempt to do so, but will not be strong enough. After the master of the house has arisen and locked the door, then will you stand outside, knocking and saying, 'Lord, open the door for us.' He will say to you in reply, 'I do not know where you are from.' And you will say, 'We ate and drank in your company and taught in our streets.' Then he will say to you, 'I do not know where you are from. Depart from me, all you evildoers.' Will we be ones who are wailing and grinding our teeth outside the door? How do we prevent that? And it's more than just showing up, going through the motions. It's more than just being found in church sometimes, or even being found in church all the time, because it has to do with more about not just showing up. That's a big part of it, but it's also of participating. We can't be wallflowers. Remember the first time you went to a dance, maybe in junior high, maybe in high school, freshman, whatever. How long were you a wallflower? Or how long did it take you to have the courage to ask someone to dance? Or to accept someone's invitation to dance? Well, the Lord is inviting you to dance each day. Know what God is calling you to and listening to Him, and know, too, that He is asking you to dance with Him, to take action on behalf of Him for the sake of others and the world. And prayer, powerful way to get in touch with the Lord of the dance.
Take a moment to recall that one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of God. Pause to reflect upon God's word to you today. Did you notice anything captivate your attention or stir in your heart? While reflecting, share your thoughts with God. When you are ready, resume this podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of Soil and Soul. God bless you and thank you for joining us.
Welcome to Soil and Soul, a new Christian podcast for those who want to invest in yields that count most. 5 days a week during planting and harvest seasons, Soil and Soul looks to help you sow seeds and reap a golden harvest.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Soil and Soul. I'm Aaron Lords, and I'm today's host. Today, on another episode of Faithful Farming, I have a special guest of mine, a college buddy of mine that I lived with back in the old days at Iowa State. How are you doing today, Logan Lyon?
Very well, thank you. Down here in Muscatine County, so kind of the opposite side of the state from you.
That's right, up in Bogie, and then you're down there. And you had just told me the other day that you guys had just gotten done with harvest your way. Is that the case for most people in that area? Is things pretty dry and you guys were able to speed right along, or have you guys been getting some rain too?
Yeah, we've been picking up a few showers here lately, but the harvest was very smooth for us from a weather standpoint. We had a lot of disease pressure kind of from all the moisture we had this summer. So our corn crop dried down very quickly. We didn't have really any need to dry down really any of the grain artificially. So harvest plugged along very smoothly for us. And we were probably a week ahead of schedule based on most years. So happy that we got it all wrapped up.
Well, that's good, but then I don't know, not asking actual numbers, Were you disappointed with the yields then, or did you have plenty of fungicide on there? I mean, I've been hearing some pretty bad stories of guys that didn't have fungicide, and I know, I mean, we have disease pressure too, even with fungicide, but it kind of made a difference this year for sure.
Yeah, even with fungicide, we had significant crop issues. We were above our APH or our actual production history, but we really lost the top end yield. Down in our part of the world, it's not uncommon for people to have 260 bushel corn, but APHs are probably more like a 225 number, and we came in, yeah, I don't know, 235 bushel corn for the most part down here in our neck of the woods. So definitely not a crop failure. But comparing it to last year where we had a significant crop, and in this area in July, we were just humming along. We had a great looking crop, and then the tap kind of turned off and the disease pressure picked up. So we definitely lost the top end by quite a bit.
Sure, and it seems like yeah, every year is different, and yeah, a lot of guys, including our area too. We were looking around. We were expecting the bin busters, all new records, because we had such a great season overall with the rains. Especially in our area, we had the major flooding. I don't know if you were familiar with that last year, and it was just some of our worst yields actually last year that we've had in quite a few years, just simply because of way too much water. And rain does not always make rain necessarily, but we had the same thing where at the end the pressure from the diseases and then the stress from, I don't think we really had the subsoil moisture built up. So then when we had the dry August, we were pretty starved on it because we didn't have
Yeah.
it built up from just enough. Now, not all of our listeners actually are active in farming, so can you just tell for everybody what is APH there when you said that? What does that stand
Yeah.
for? What is that?
So APH is a crop insurance term, which is part of my day job is handling crop insurance. But APH is actual production history, and that's a 10-year rolling average of your corn crop and your soybean crop that helps us base on what kind of coverage you can get through your crop insurance.
Okay.
Each farmer has their own APH based specifically off their operation.
Yep, exactly. No, and that was a good explanation, actually, better than what I would have actually said. I would have rambled on for a while. But then again, like you said, that's part of what you do. Have you been selling crop insurance since right out of college, or when did that start?
Yeah, so you and I went to Iowa State together. I got an agronomy degree at Iowa State. And my first 4 or 5 years after Iowa State, I was doing agronomy, retail agronomy, seed fertilizer sales. And then after Emily and I, my wife Emily, and I had our first child, Lambert, he was born with a lot of complications. We were living in Waterloo at that time, and Lambert spent his first 6 months of life in the Iowa City Hospital, which is closer to home. So after he was born, I moved back to the Muscatine area and started in the insurance world, and that'll be 9 years in November. So been doing farm property insurance and crop insurance for coming up on 9 years now.
Wow, geez, that kind of flew by. It makes me remind me that it's been that long since we graduated. Wow.
Yep.
Geez. Oh my gosh. Okay, so would you say that Lambert and just needing the care and the location you needed to be, getting uprooted, was that one of the major reasons why you switched professions and maybe even lifestyles a little bit?
Yep. So one reason the company that I was working with had undergone a very large merger with one of their competitors, so they were not looking to relocate people. They were really looking to push early retirement on folks. So relocating with that current job wasn't necessarily an option. There were plenty of opportunities to continue in retail agronomy down here in Southeast Iowa. But with a lot of my ambition and aspirations to start farming, I did not really want to be tied up in the fall doing fertilizer recommendations for other people, and in the spring delivering seed. I really wanted to find a career that could be flexible and really compromise well with farming, and insurance was a great compromise in that. It seems like when farmers are in the combine, they're okay not seeing their insurance guy, so I can kind of take a 2, 3, 4 week hiatus in the fall from the insurance thing and be available, but also go and harvest and kind of fly under the radar. When guys are in the combine, they kind of expect to see their fertilizer guy and their seed guy, and for me, I'm able to sidestep that a little.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you're pestering them, you're probably going to get booted off. I mean, at the very beginning, maybe you're dealing with some of that for like, in your neck of the woods, are there as many? I mean, we have a lot of livestock by here. Are you dealing with like guys that are doing silage and whatnot at the beginning of harvest, or not as much?
We are, but not nearly as much as up in your part of the world. I mean, we would have in our area, an average cattle guy would have, 50 cow-calf pairs and a feedlot with 50 animals. So they're doing one silage bag a year. So it's not a significant time suck for me.
Gotcha. Yeah. So then that's nice. Then it's complementary too to your family life and getting that balance as well as that farming lifestyle that you wanted. So you're doing a little bit of farming on the side too. What all does your operation as it's budding, and what does that all consist of currently? And do you look to try to expand that as we go along, or are you kind of happy with where you're at right now?
Yeah, so very fortunate, married on to my wife's family's operation here. Her dad and uncle farm a nice row crop operation, about 1,200 acres. Have a cow calf operation. We have a hog barn finisher, make a lot of straw, make a lot of hay in the summertime. So from a modern farm, quite diverse. And then Emily and I have our own 200 acres, kind of alongside of theirs, is our own. 200 acres row crop, have a dozen
That's
cattle
great.
within the herd. So we're able to stay involved and we're working on, we got a 40-acre parcel bought, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Able to kind of put our flag in the ground in a sense, and always continuing to look for the correct opportunities of growth as well. So if insurance could be a part-time deal and the farm thing is more significant, that's definitely both her and I's goal.
That's what I kind of wondered. Yeah, and that's what I was leaning at, because I was like, ultimately, that's probably the end goal for anybody that's doing kind of a mixture that way. It's just honestly, with today's reality with farming, a lot of people have to do a little bit of both, and it's nice that you have that balance and you can make that work for your family. And I love that phrase with setting a flag in the ground and making it your own. That's beautiful. That's what everybody dreams of, having like the songs say, having a little plot of land of your own and a place to raise a family. And you and Emily have definitely a beautiful family that you've raised. Now, you mentioned Lambert, but I don't think on this recording yet you've mentioned your other kids. You want to talk about the rest of your family then?
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, Lambert is our 9-year-old high needs child. He's actually a dwarf. So if you think of Austin Powers Mini Me, he's my mini me. And then we have Lucy, who is 6, and then we have Langston, will be 3 in December, and then my wife will be having our 4th baby literally anytime. So we're expecting baby
My,
number 4 in the next few
I didn't
days.
realize that. I didn't realize that you guys were that close. I
Yep.
knew she was coming along, but congratulations. With like now you mean like
Yes,
within?
her due date's October 27th, and we're recording this on the 17th. So I'd be very shocked if we didn't have a new baby on the ground by mid next week. So yeah, so we're very excited. It's we don't know if we're having a boy or girl. The kids are really hoping for a sister to kind of even it out, but we'll
Yeah.
just see how it all shakes out.
Oh, that's of course they are. I also had to chuckle a little bit internally there when you said a new baby on the ground. Like
On the
that's a
ground. Yeah.
total like that's a total ag term. Like city kids would not say that. They're like, what? Why would you say like, well, calves, the calf dropping on the ground, you know?
Yep, absolutely. So Emily loves my livestock references, and every year or every time we have a child, I say, "Well, I'll go run up to the barn and grab the pole and chains just in case the doctors need help." But that loses its funniness after 3 and now 4 kids.
Yeah, it becomes like a groan and an eye roll and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what of that. But yeah, she's used to your sense of humor at this point, though. You got to
yeah,
keep it
yeah.
lively, especially when you got all those little ones running around, and there's the ups and downs, of course. Some days are good and some days are more of a struggle, of course, right?
Absolutely. Nope, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and on that note too, like, okay, so just those first years of marriage were probably a little bit more trying, and you guys were dealing with Lambert and all of his medical issues. Was that, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, Logan, like, was that kind of difficult at first just to accept, or to wonder like why us, or just the uncertainty? I mean, how familiar
Yeah.
were with even with any of these medical conditions, and as you had, it was a learning curve, I'm sure, all the way through.
Yes, and it definitely plays into our faith journey as well. So, my wife and I were married August of 2015, and Lambert was born August of 2016. And we knew that we were going to have complications at her 20-week ultrasound, in that, I suppose that had been a March time frame. So we were living in Waterloo at the time, went and saw our baby doctor up there, and I was kind of goofing around like we just hinted at, and he said, "Hey, I need to take a serious moment here because something doesn't look quite right. And he said the baby's long bones are measuring short, and he says the only indicator that he's ever practiced with is that could be an indicator of Down syndrome. But he said in the ultrasound, I'm not seeing any other indicators of Down syndrome. There's I guess they can tell in the ultrasound with like the thickness of the fat on the back of the neck, the distance between
Interesting.
their nose and their lip. And he said he did all those other measurements, and he wasn't seeing Down syndrome indicators aside from the long bones being short. And he said you need to go to Iowa City. And so a couple weeks later, we went down to Iowa City, and they said they pulled fluids from Emily. They did ultrasounds, and they said that this, whatever the baby's condition is, will be a 50/50 lethal opportunity. We had no idea if when he was delivered, if he was going to be able to sustain life outside of Emily due to this condition. His lungs and his breathing capacity was compromised, and a few other things. His airway sturdiness was compromised after he was born. He had a surgery about 45 days after birth to get a trach, and so that was, like I said, this will turn into the faith journey a little bit. But yeah, our first 2-3 years of marriage were wild, because the second half of the first year of our marriage, we were wondering if we were going to have a baby that survived. The
Yeah.
first half of the second year of our marriage was spent in a hospital. It was in a hospital for 201 days. And then
Wow.
from the second half of the second year up until Lambert was 7 years old, we had 16 hours a day of in-home nurse care.
Yeah, I remember. Wow.
Yeah, so every night we'd have a nurse show up at our house at 10 p.m. She would stay in Lambert's room with him, give him his medicines, make sure his feedings were going well, make sure that he, had a good night of sleep. And then the day nurse would come at 6 in the morning, get him ready for his daily activities or school or whatever that might be. They'd go to school with him once he got older. But yeah, we had, we had a very, very strange few years of marriage there off the start. But it was our normal. I never looked for pity or sympathy or whatever. I just told people, hey, we all got our normal. This one's ours. It was interesting, but it was ours.
Wow. Yeah, and I recall that too. Just your both you guys' social media posts, or when I'd reached out to you or talked to you, that's just always been impressed on me, that it was just the humility and the faith, the trust, just following along in that. A lot of people might have just thrown their hands up, or even looked for the pity, or really almost sought it, but you guys were just really a beacon of strength, and quite a witness. And you were saying, yeah, it was a really tough time on your marriage, but look at how it ultimately would have, it had to have strengthened it. I mean, you guys
Yeah.
must be stronger than ever through all of this as a family unit.
Yeah, extremely blessed. It takes a village. I mean, we have my family, Emily's family is just super helpful and was along the whole way. So, I mean, we were extremely thankful, still are thankful for all our support arms. But yeah, just good friends and good people around us. So, and again, back to the faith journey too, just knowing that God has a plan. I mean, that was always the tough part, when you're a young married couple and you're going, geez, why us? And nope, we gotta buckle down and realize this is our plan. Don't have to agree with it, don't have to understand it, but we gotta embrace it.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you don't just go with that, well, then when you get nihilistic, and what's the fun in that? Like, there's no fun in nihilism. Like, let's embrace it, and see where God's taking us. Just having that trust, and knowing that we just got to write our plans in pencil and give God the eraser, right? And a lot of times that eraser comes out pretty steady, and it's a pretty one of those pink pearls, and it gets pretty aggressive sometimes, erasing what we think is the way it's going to be. And but ultimately, God comes through, and once we really follow that and embrace that, that's where we can really shine. And look at the blessings you guys have come through all this. And honestly, you guys have touched a lot of lives too. I mean, through your presence, and you kind of have an active social media following, and I know there's support involved with that too. It's probably helped somewhat, but even just having a witness, a testament for others. I mean, I've really seen that myself from someone that knows you better than the random person on the internet, but I know that's touched people's lives and allowed them to see sort of a strength in their own maybe weaknesses, or through their own little small times that they go through, whether they're completely different than what you're dealing with or not. I mean, I'm sure you've heard stories or comments from that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, beacon of hope's a little much in our scenario, but I think what I try to convey the most to people when we're talking is, so much of this doesn't matter. Raising kids to have a relationship with Christ is kind of number one, but all this other stuff doesn't, there's no sense in getting worked up in a lot of it. So whether it's a bad day at work, or farming row crop doesn't go the way it is, the cow that you hoped was going to be your next big one, dies in the pasture, whatever that is. I mean, there's so much stuff, so much noise, that if anybody was looking up or looking at our situation and asking how we did it, I'd probably just recommend, like, just turn down the noise, because so many of the ankle biter things do not matter. Having a safe home for your wife and your kids is primary, and having a relationship with Christ is obviously right up there on top of the list. But all the noise, you just got to stiff arm it and walk through it.
Yeah, exactly. And Aaron, my wife and I, we've dealt with our own struggles for year long that you know about, but
Hmm.
the same thing where we were like, well, why? Well, why us? Or why does this have to be our situation? This is not what my plan A was. This is not what I was thinking. Plan B, plan Z even. But then once you finally just accept and go forth with it, then you see fruits from it. And you guys have definitely been a testament of that too. And look at Lambert. He's enjoying the farm life, and I love seeing all the pictures or the videos with him in the cab with you, and now you got all the siblings as well, and they do so well with each other, don't they too?
Yeah, well, like I said, we're blessed. I mean, Lambert, along with the dwarfism, is kind of middle of the road autistic, doesn't have much speech development for himself, does participate in a lot of different therapies and stuff. But yeah, he's kind of set him and keep him happy. I mean, he stems a lot, and whether it's with a device or with toys, I mean, he's got his environment that the other two are respectful of, to give him his space. But if they can get involved or do get involved, we have a good setup, I'd say. Good boundaries for the other two to respect Lambert's space, and then also I like to think, the correct amount of encouragement to push Lambert's space a little bit and make sure that he's interacting with the rest of us.
Yeah, that's right. And that's where some of those conditions like that, like with autism, it just really, again, back into like it takes a village. And I typically hate that phrase, actually, to be honest,
Sure.
but it kind of does. You got to have the people around you, and you can't try to just be like, oh, I'm going to be loud and proud and all alone. That you're going to fail then, or
Yeah.
it's going to be more of a struggle than it's worth. Like, why are you putting yourself through that? And where you guys live, I'm assuming, do you guys have a great school system and the medical care around you to where you're getting a lot of great support? I know that's what we really enjoy right by Okoboji. Extra, the faculties and supports within the school systems are top notch.
Yeah, yep, we're 45 minutes from doorstep to doorstep to the Children's Hospital in Iowa City. So, I mean, that's a huge blessing. School district wise, I mean, while they're in middle school or up to middle school, we have rural access to schools. Once we get into high school, we may have to find an alternative plan, just as it will be going into the Davenport school system, and it might be a little more busy than our preference. But again, but that's kind of, yeah, deal with it once we get there and learn the process as we go through it.
I love that. I love that. I love that testament. And what about Emily? I guess we haven't talked about her enough.
Yeah.
How was this for experience for her? Now, you're not going to speak for her, of course, but what do you feel like if she was right here, what would she say her experience was, or what you've heard from her throughout all of this, from the beginning, if we want to back up a little bit?
Yeah. Yep. So Emily's an only child, so her involvement on the farm too was good. She's an ag-minded person, very much like me, and went to Iowa State. And her and I knew each other. We grew up on different ends of the county here in Muscatine County, but never really crossed paths because our lives were different enough as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But she worked at Scott County 4-H organizer for all the county stuff. But yeah, when it comes to kids, and her being an only child and me being one of five, I'm confident she did not expect, while she was going through college or even our first few years of marriage, that we'd have four kids. I convinced her that that was a good idea, I guess, and I'm sure that. It's not the ideal life that she pictured, but it's the ideal life that we have. She spends a lot of time running with the kids. We're fortunate enough that she can stay home with them full time, run around with the kids, get Lambert to his therapies and that. But between expectations that you have with all your kids, and then you shift those a little bit. Lucy and her are two peas in a pod when it comes to soccer's Emily's
Oh, that's
sport of
wonderful.
choice, and Emily's able to be Lucy's coach for the soccer team and do that kind of stuff. And it's a blessing she has Lucy, because if she had to tame Langston all the time, who's the 2.5-year-old, it'd be rough go. No,
Well,
she's a great mom. She does such a good job with the kids, and I mean her quiet time for herself is running, so she's active and doing a couple half marathons a year, and doing that. So she finds her quietness that way.
oh yeah, she's a warrior, way more than I am. I can't do it. Or I'm not planning on doing a marathon anytime soon. So yeah, she's gonna run circles around all of us and keep up with all those kids. And yeah, I'm sure maybe she's rooting for a. Well, I know I shouldn't speak for her, but it sounds like the kiddos are asking for another sister. So we'll see what happens with it. But
Yeah.
either way, best wishes for you guys as you get closer here. The days are ticking down, and congratulations on the new baby coming. And like, yeah, Aaron is like not the same way that I am. In the same way, we complement each other, and it sounds like that you and Emily do similar that way. And she's wonderful. Now, what was it like for you guys when you were first married, on the faith side of things? Because like Emily's Catholic, right?
Yeah. So, and I mean, everybody has different kind of journeys in that space. And I grew up very, very small Methodist church. I mean, truly the average age of our congregation was 70 years old. And then my family. So us five kids, and dad would tote us in there and forced us to be involved, forced us to be the loudest singers and that. So I was able to kind of have a connection that way, which was good. And then Emily
Yeah.
went to Catholic church, but it sounds like kind of a diet version, as diet as they can let themselves be here in Bluegrass. And so when we got married, and Catholic Church was really important to her mom and her family and herself. And I just like to be a good Christian. I'm not too worried about how it's presented, but found Christ in junior college just through a kind of Church of Open Bible, hands up singing. There's a band in the background, which is definitely not my flavor now in life, but it was
Okay.
occurring at
Interesting.
the right. It occurred at the right time of life that made me kind of experience a deeper relationship with Jesus. That being in a quiet old person Methodist church and then being in the structure of a Catholic church, you may not have that emotional awakening that I think
Sure.
was timed well for me in junior college. And then having that spark and accepting Christ, was able to navigate that a little differently now in adulthood. And not firm on Catholicism's the only way for me, but just really cheering for my kids to have a relationship with Christ, and finding that avenue that works best for them.
Well, yeah, that's really well said. I mean, ultimately, isn't our goal to get to heaven and get our kids and our family and the other people around us in our circle, in our pool, in our ripple, if you will, to heaven as well? I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
Yep, absolutely. So, and we're blessed. I mean, the farm here, the generations of the farm operation we're on maybe don't appreciate a quiet Sunday going to church as much as I would like them to. So there's days that we get pulled away from our responsibilities of being in town, and then our responsibilities here on the farm outshine that a little bit. And hopefully, as Emily and I maybe take a little bit more of a decision making role on the farm, we can adjust that a little bit. No, we try pretty hard to get the kids there, get Sunday school kind of program going, and those kind of things.
That's great, and that's kind of interesting. You're just talking about that little tidbit, because I was just talking to someone else this morning about how I have that same situation where, I mean, I'm not dishing against my dad, but it's just a certain, a little bit different mentality, and it might be generational somewhat. It might also just be this area, very, very German Lutheran. And I grew up going to the small Lutheran church, and you're supposed to sing, and here's the book, and do that, and you're just singing the same really old school organ hymns, and that's about it. And it's all pretty much old people, and then all the young people are kind of moving away as the church unfortunately is kind of dying out a little bit. It is
Hmm.
sad, but I grew up actually going to the Lutheran church. All five of us kids, also one of five, oldest of five. We went with my dad to Lutheran church on Sunday morning, and Saturday night we went to the Catholic church with my mom.
Hmm.
And so it's definitely a little more unique than the average situation, but I can relate to kind of seeing the ecumenical side of things and appreciating both the Lutheran experience that I had as well as Catholicism. And both, it's interesting you were talking about with the music and kind of the praise and worship came at the right time. That's
Hmm.
one thing that's always lacked in a number of these denominations. So I'm really happy that it came to you. You had that experience right about the right time, and God probably had a hand in that. Honestly, it
Yeah.
helped bring you closer, and really ultimately helped further along your faith journey, which is wonderful. And it is also interesting you were talking about with the on Sunday thing, that's been a little bit of a struggle for me too. I feel like this kind of a internal war, if you will, because I feel pulled to do what we've always been doing, and I don't want to cause a rift or anything. It's like, well, this is what we're doing, and everybody's in the field. You gotta get some crop out on Sunday, but also my lean is to not want to, and to one have that time beyond going to mass, and then after that to take the take the day off, except for maybe livestock chores, but have more of that time with my family, especially. And it seems like I was just actually recording an episode with my co-host here, Kayla, this morning, but we were talking about how farming sometimes takes the front seat, and the family unit can almost take a little bit of a back seat, and that's kind of what you're talking about too. So you just have to be careful about that.
Well, and I think your podcast here is a great example of that. I think that's kind of what you guys build it on is going, holy smokes, during harvest, no one's here at the church. So you and your priest or pastor kind of decided, hey, how do we get some more stories and get people connected in the fall time?
That's right. That's exactly what it is, to engage and hopefully keep that spark kind of going. When it's so important to keep furthering in your faith, and even if all you're doing is making it to church on Sunday, well, then there's so many other options, especially nowadays with technology, to keep that going. Whether it's through some sort of a podcast, or listening to something, or just even through your prayer life. I mean, one thing that I've always thought is like, well, if you're sitting alone in a cab and you're able to turn on the radio and listen to that and not have to listen to the loud engine note, like say of like a chopper, especially is loud. If you can manage that and listen to that, well, why not just turn it off completely and sit in the silence and have some, like, probably the most time you have of any given day to pray or to reflect. I don't know, and I'm sure what you've seen too with your own life, just the ups and downs, and what you guys have had, some of these struggles. Like, did you kind of have a whole another coming to of with your prayer life, or has that always been just the strongest thing in the world?
So I wouldn't say it's super strong, but I think I would have regular conversations or ponderances that I would hope qualify as prayer time. But my dad passed away 6 months before Emily and I got married, and so there is that kind of spiritual part too, where you're going, hey, if it's not a conversation with God, there is a conversation with those that are around you, and hoping that you're doing the things that would lift them up and make them proud of what you're doing. So whether it's a Christly relationship, it's definitely a worldly relationship that you're speaking to a higher power in that sense. So yeah, it's a little funny in our family functions. My wife's mom is a good Catholic, but when we have Christmas dinner or whatever, it seems as if I'm the one that she goes, "Okay, Logan, let's say grace," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I will say grace," and so
Interesting. Yeah.
maybe I'm just the loudest, dumbest one in the room. Maybe not the best Christian, but the loudest one willing to have that dialogue, I guess. So.
Yeah, or I mean, you're very well spoken for one thing. You always have been. It could be that, or do you guys get together? Is it at your house? You're kind of like the man of the house thing, or no?
No, I mean, I think it's probably well spoken. It tends to be at the house that she grew up in, but probably just my willingness to be vocal and my relationship with Christ. And not that anybody's super, and not I don't think anybody's embarrassed of their relationship, but I do think that people have a hard time putting it into words, their relationship into words. So.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point too. And I guess you've probably gone through enough where it's probably come through some of that, where you've able to put it through words, even if, and it's very conversational sometimes. Sometimes prayer doesn't have to be this recited, memorized prayer. It can be very spontaneous. And sometimes prayer it almost has some anger in it, like frustration, like, why? Why is this happening? Why do I
Yeah.
have to go through this? Why is this my cross to bear? Well, we all ultimately have crosses to bear. And if we can tack ourselves along onto Jesus' cross and bear together, I mean, ultimately it's going to be a much lighter yoke, right?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned, the conversation versus the rehearsed portion. We had our Catholic church has not had a Sunday school or a confirmation group for a couple of years. They've been struggling with membership, and so we started a family group that we meet once a month on Wednesdays, and then that night we're giving worksheets to utilize for the next 3 Wednesdays until we all meet as a group again. And we do a dinner, everybody. The deacon was asking somebody to start the prayer, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess if nobody else does, I have a hard time being quiet. And so I almost started like just a normal like Heavenly Father, thanks for this day, thanks for these people. I'm really really encouraged. But no, in the Catholic Church, there's a scripted prayer for dinner, and I'm like, oh. Well, it's a good thing I didn't open my stupid mouth because I would have looked silly in that. And
Oh,
again,
you
when I
can do both. But
yeah,
yeah,
you're
everyone looks at you a little bit. You can do both. You can do anything you want impromptu, but I get your point though. Yeah, it's everyone looks at you kind of funny, like, why aren't you saying "Bless us, O Lord"? And he's like,
correct.
what?
And so, like I mentioned, it'd be hard for me to get real excited about a relationship with Christ if, in the rehearsed sense. So again, that hands up band in the background kind of period of my life was the right time for Christ to get in my heart and go, okay, we can worship however it makes sense, and we can pray however it makes sense.
That's right. Um, well, great. Well, I kind of with that, I love this story. I love how you are connecting this faith and your farming background, agricultural background. This is exactly what we're looking to do within this segment and just really the overall podcast in general. Where I like using the phrase witnesses in plain sight that this Father
Mm,
Feller and I kind of coined because, I mean, that's what you are. That's what you and Emily are. You are a witness in plain sight. You're just everyday people. You and I are everyday people, and so are the listener. And so often people get kind of caught up in thinking like, oh, that's not me. That's not, I don't have a fancy story. Well, yeah, you do. Everyone has a story to tell. Some of them are more flashy than others. Some of us are a little bit more well spoken. Not all of us are as great of public speakers or as just really good in speaking your mind and articulating it as you, Logan. But when it comes to the story, I just hope that some of these witnesses can really inspire people and realize that we have these amazing stories and these witnesses of faith and in farming in our backyards as neighbors. And it's not just the celebrities within the faith, like within the Catholic faith, it might be like a Father Mike Schmitz, or I might start giving other names of like on evangelicals or just even in the farming sector too. Like, I don't know, there's like a Tony Reed or something like that. Like it, we don't have to be a celebrity to make a difference. We don't have to have this big flashy story. How about we just be a witness in our own family, right?
yeah.
In what we do, in acta non verba, like actions over words. Sometimes it doesn't even take the words. It's just showing what we can do as we look to bring our family to heaven, honestly.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great way to put that. Because for me, it's, if there's a person that you're trying to reach out to, or I guess my recent example, we had a national congresswoman on our farm here a month or so ago, and I care about agriculture politics, but I don't care about the political games. And so we had her on our farm and had a round table and talking ag policy. And there's some people that go, "Why would you ever want them on your farm, or why would you ever invite a politician out?" Because for
Sure.
me, it's if they're not sitting at your table, they're sitting at somebody else's table. And if you can have a conversation with them to whether it's venture needs or your frustrations, and that's a political example, but I think in a religious example, that if you don't invite them to your table to have a safe environment, a warm conversation about Christ, they might be sitting at somebody else's table where that conversation isn't quite as warm, isn't quite as encouraging, isn't quite as positively directed. So if you have an opportunity to invite people to sit at that table, hypothetical and literal, you should invite them to your table.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and why can we not be so ecumenical? Why do we close ourselves off? And that's on all sides. Catholics are just as guilty of it as like Methodists, or pick your poison, right? We just need to come together. Ultimately, I would say under one church, but it's church with a lowercase c in this case. We all have that end goal, right? I mean, we all love Jesus. We all are called to follow Christ and to bring our family and the people around us to heaven. We keep rehearsing this thing, but it's the end goal, and let's be a witness together. I love that example of let's all sit at the table together, really.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yep. That's one of my many recent soapboxes, I guess, that I've been climbing upon and talking to people about. But no, it's life's good. I mean, we're like I said, we're blessed and really thankful for the opportunities we have, and blessed with the challenges that come along with it because it makes us better, stronger people along the way. Even though at the moment it doesn't always feel like that, but we do our best. Once we get through a storm, we go, okay, what can we learn? How do we do it better next time? And how do we achieve what we're looking to achieve?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good way to end this actually too, probably. And once again, go ahead and keep going on that soapbox, Logan, because you're well spoken, you have that witness, and whether it's an ag or in your faith, just keep going on that, because that's what we need. We need more people saying yes to that and ultimately saying yes to God's plan. So thank you again for all your time and sharing of yourself with the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing it, Aaron.
Okay. And to the listener, thanks for keeping on and listening to us, and we'll talk to you again next time. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Soil and Soul, and we hope that it blesses you. Please stay tuned during the week for the other daily shows that we offer as part of this special ministry project we're providing during the peak seasons of planting and harvest. Also, if you'd like to find out more about Catholic Passage, how you might collaborate with us, or even support our mission, please visit us at CatholicPassage.com. Most importantly, you can support us with your prayers. We'll be praying for you. Please pray for us.